Hello and welcome. My name is Mike, and I want to show you how I added lights, a mirror to my son's 2023 Kayo KMB 60 pit bike. Now, I added these devices because my son wanted to ride his dirt bike to school, right? As many of y'all know, if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, 90s, 70s, seeing movies where kids rode dirt bikes to school and you weren't able to convince your mom uh, on how to be able to ride your dirt bike or pit bike to school, well, I'm going to show you some things that you can do to help convince her. So let's take a look at some of the things I've done to this pit bike. Like I said, this is a 2023 KO KMB 60. If you're not familiar with this brand, it's a Chinese brand. We bought it because it was a lot cheaper to purchase this versus trying to buy a Japanese bike. I won't go through the price and things like that because I'm pretty sure you can go online, check out the price yourself, but I'm just saying this KO is significantly cheaper. I know there's always questions about reliability for Chinese bikes and things like that. We've had this bike going on close to, I want to say 3 years. I think it's a 2022. It's not a 2023. I think it's a 2022. But it has, for the most part, been reliable. Recently, it has an issue with the valves. I believe one of the valves is bent from maybe the timing chain being stretched. I did replace that valve, but it bent within, I don't know, maybe a couple of minutes of riding it. So I'm gonna have to replace that valve again. But I'm not here to show you that valve. I want to show you how we added certain devices to this bike just to make it more, I guess, friendly to ride on the street. I wanted my child to be more visible when he's riding on the street. He's 10 years old. A lot of you might say, well, why are you letting a 10-year-old ride a dirt bike to school? Well, I guess because he can. You know, my son's pretty responsible, I would say. He's got, he uses a helmet. He has a jacket. He's got gloves. I always tell him to make sure that he's got, shoes on, not sandals. Prefer to do high tops, but sometimes we don't have the high tops on, but things like that. But this bike does have a headlight. It also has a brake light. Well, I want to say a rear tail light. It's not a brake light because it's not hooked to the brakes. And on this particular bike, while it has disc brakes and things like that, it looks like these kind of brakes are more for like a mountain bike, and they just somehow adapted these style brakes to a pit bike like this. But yeah, it has a tail light. You see that comes. It looks like, I call it Tron or Battlestar Galactica style, which is kind of cool. This tail light, it's pretty bright. Comes on. This tail light does have the ability to be a brake light or a turn signal light. As far as, like I said, the brake, I don't think I can make the brake deal work. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the camera. I was looking at the bike. But yeah, as far as the brakes go, like I said, I don't think I can make them work. I could try to figure it out. The signal part section, I could probably make that work. But then again, this bike right here, I'm not trying to make it street legal. So just, if you're trying to figure out how to do that, then I'm pretty sure there's some other videos, but I did want to show you all this bike just because of what I've added on there. This headlight, of course, is a light that we bought from Amazon. I think it goes to a KTM bike or something like that. But what was interesting was that this bike, this headlight fairing actually fits very well with this fender. The contours, as you can see, just somehow match. I'm guessing since it's a Chinese bike, they probably copied some of the designs from other bikes. But like I said, I believe this headlight fairing or number plate is from a KTM. Um, so I want to show you how I installed these parts and what I did. So let me start. I'll start with this with this headlight cover. So when I got this cover, it came with some rubber connectors, maybe to hook it to this fork or triple tree or whatever you want to call it. But I didn't use that. What I did was I got some aluminum I bought from the local hardware store, and I used that to mount it, and I brazed it with aluminum. I'm not going to call it welding because it's really not welding. Basically, you're using a torch. You're heating the metal up, and then you're getting some aluminum sticks, and you're basically the aluminum stick melts to this aluminum rod right here. Guess I'm using the right terminology, but basically I opted to go this route just because I couldn't figure out how to hook those rubber pieces to this piece and this triple tree. So I did it like this instead, and I actually like it like this because it's probably more solid and it's probably going to stay on there longer, right? And then I mounted the bottom part of the this headlight fairing cover to the fender on the bottom. This video is not going to be it's not going to be like a how-to. I mean, definitely, I wouldn't mind making a how-to, but I'm pretty sure if you do searches and things like that, you could figure out some of the things I did. But I just wanted to show you like what I did to give y'all some ideas, right? Because I know I searched online and I try to find certain things on what people did. And, I saw a lot of people, when they wired things up, they would use, crimps or whatever. I prefer to solder my wires. I've always done that on anything I've done, like whether it's car stereos, automotively, car stereos or any kind of lights. I prefer to solder the wires just because I don't want them to come apart, right? Not saying anything about, crimping it's going to come apart or anything like that. It's just my preference. If you like crimping works for you, then then do it, right? So yeah. So I soldered all my wires, put heat shrink on them. For this back tail light, what I did was, and I'll show you how I made things work. So what's cool about this bike is this orange color. You can buy this orange color that matches pretty good from, I got it from Home Depot. And in my opinion, I think the orange matches pretty well, but may not be a big problem to some of y'all, but I don't know, like if you're painting something, I kind of want it to match, right? Anyway, so for this backlight right here, what I basically did was I had some metal left over from when I installed my garage opener, and I welded it to this frame, right? I'm not a welder. Like basically, I think this is probably like my third time welding or something like that. But I preferred to weld it just because I did not want this light to come off. And this weld is pretty strong. I wouldn't recommend trying to hook a trailer or something to it. But yeah, I think it's pretty strong. I have another pit bike where I do have a small trailer for my son that I do hook up, which is this Burley trailer. I can show another video, but we'll stick to this. But yeah, so I hooked this light on there. I made sure. One of the things that I wanted to add on the back of this was I wanted to add a rubber grommet, just because I didn't want, there's metal back here, and I don't want these wires to chafe against it and, cause problems. I don't think it will, but because I have heat shrink all the way to the back, but I do have a rubber grommet deal that I can stick back there, which I plan to do. On this particular bike, the battery had to be replaced a couple months ago. This battery, it's a lithium battery. The battery was from China. pretty sure this battery's from China too. I don't know where it's from, but the other battery I was gonna have to buy it from Amazon. It was gonna be over, I think it was like $150 or something like that, which was weird. I figured it'd be cheaper than that. But I bought this battery, which is a NOCO brand, and it actually fits. It doesn't fit exactly in this bike. I had to make some modifications. The battery box that was in this bike was smaller. So I did cut this battery box up and I welded, so you can see my ugly welds. But yeah, I cut the battery box up to accommodate this battery. And in my opinion, it's working pretty well. It's pretty strong. But I did have to cut that because I wanted to be able to just go to the store and buy a battery. Like I you know, I don't have to wait online to get the battery. I mean, I could find it cheaper and stuff like that. But I think when you have a machine or a car or something, and you need a battery, you want to be able to go to the store and buy it. So, and this battery is a lithium battery as well. It's pretty light. It's a lot stronger than the other battery. So I would recommend, you know, if you could just, you know, installing a battery like this. You know, if you can't weld, then, you know, maybe you can somehow bolt the battery box in there or whatever. But if you know, you got a friend that can weld or whatever it is, then hit them up and see if they can help you out. All right. So I added that because, and another reason why I added that battery is because I wanted to make sure that this bike had enough power to power the headlights up. And this battery does have enough power to do that. My son said he wanted to hook up like a speaker to his bike or something, because we had a lot of guys that are riding Harleys around, you know, street guys, road guys, and they're blasting their music. I don't think we're going to be able to hook a stereo system to this bike, just because I don't think this bike can charge something like that. But, you know, like a little Bluetooth speaker or something like that, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how far we get to that. So the lights for this bike are, they come on via the ignition key, right? And a relay. So I got to put this relay on here. I had to find a spot, decided to go right here, and this bike had this connector which was not connected to anything. And you know, I used my multimeter to see where, you know, which, you know, so I was like, hey, what's this connector for? You know, it's not connected to anything. But I just went ahead and tested these, you know, these pieces right here, and I found a power source. So I used this as my key on power source for this relay. Like I said, I'm not going to show y'all how to, you know, as far as like connecting wires to a relay and stuff like that. It's not, I will say this, if you go online and you'll see a diagram, it's not too hard to read, or see what colors you have to use, or where certain pins go to. But yeah, if you go online, you should be able to do that. But I'm just showing y'all what I did. You know, again, I said earlier, I prefer to solder my wires, and that's what I did right here. And the reason why I went with the relay was because initially we did have a switch. We had a switch that was like this, hooked on here, but some kid at the school or whatever, I don't know, they came, and, you know, kids are kids. They don't know what they're doing, but they turned that switch on and it killed the battery. So a way to prevent that from happening again, I went ahead and went with this relay, and there's no way that someone can just turn the lights on and then, you know, it's just staying on all day long, right? Because my son, he can't park this bike at the school because the principal said, since it has gas, you can't park it next to the bikes. Now, they got electric bikes parked right there, but you can't park your bike next to, you can't park your gas-powered bike in the bicycle parking area. But it's all right because he's got it parked across the street at the amenity center, got a lock and everything, so he locks it up so nobody can take it. So yeah, and this video's going kind of long, but I'm gonna go through this real quick. What else did I do? Hook some mirrors on here so he can see behind him. There was another mirror on the side, but it broke because one of my son's friends came and knocked the bike over. So it broke, but I think he can still just, you know, we just use one mirror for right now. These mirrors, all these parts I'm showing you, they're from Amazon. They're not expensive at all. You know, very, very cheap to find and things like that, and stuff breaks, you can put it back on there. So yeah, so we have the mirror on there as well, so you can see behind him versus trying to turn around. What else? I think those are all the different things that I hooked on this bike. One of the interesting things about this bike, I'm not going to say it's not fast. I think, the top speed on it is like 30 miles per hour, so maybe that is kind of fast. But it's not fast like, like a larger bike. My son is 10. When he's sitting on his bike, it does look small for him. But, the thing is, he's not trying to get this bike and, do jumps or race or anything like that. It's just for him to kind of get around. We definitely have little trails around the neighborhood, and he rides it there too. He wants a bigger bike, but I think for right now, this bike does what it needs to do. It's not super expensive. It does what it needs to do. And, how often can you say that as a child, you ride a dirt bike to school? Like I said, I've watched like Bad News Bears, Terminator 2, growing up, and wanted to be like those kids that ride a dirt bike to school. But for one thing, we didn't have money to buy a dirt bike, and to convince my parents to allow me to do it, it was kind of hard. But I was able to convince my wife to let my son ride a dirt bike. So again, not showing you how I did it, but just wanted to give you guys some ideas on what to do to make your pit bike safer for your child to ride around. I mean, whether it's to school or just riding around the neighborhood or whatever it is, I think definitely we got to have lights. I see a lot of bikes riding around, electric kids, parents letting their kids ride their electric bikes, and these bikes are fast. They're doing wheelies and stuff. They have helmets on, but they ain't got no lights or anything. Not to say lights are going to keep you, are going to prevent you from wrecking and stuff. But I just know even on a bicycle, I want a light or something on there. Anyways, thank you for watching my video. Sorry it's so long. This is actually my first time making a video. And I hope to make more. Maybe I'll make another video on what I did to fix that valve problem, the valve hitting the head. All right. We'll see you on the next one, and thank you for watching.